Hello, everyone, and welcome. Today, we're talking about osteoporosis and bone health and plant-based diets and what you need to do if you eat plant-based to make sure your bones really get what they need. And my special guest today is an expert on this topic. Hi, if you're new here, I'm Dr. Lisa. I'm a physical therapist and the founder of Brick House Bones, where I have exercise programs for people of all levels of ability so that you can regain your confidence after an osteoporosis diagnosis and live the active, independent life that you love. Now, let me introduce my special guest, Denise Garbinski. She's a registered dietitian and board certified in functional nutrition. She's also bone fit trained as a bone fit coach through Osteoporosis Canada, which I love. In 2023, after asking her doctor to get a baseline DEXA scan, Denise learned she had osteoporosis and osteopenia. And this journey inspired her to launch her current practice called Bone Freedom. And through her practice, she empowers clients across the US and Canada and the world to improve their bone health by learning the root cause of their condition and understanding the personalized lifestyle changes that they need to make. Denise also has great experience, both personally and professionally, in guiding people through plant-based diets. Denise, welcome. Welcome back, actually. Thanks for being here.
Thanks, Dr. Lisa. It's fun to be back with you.
Yes, I just really appreciate your approach, your education, your training. You know, registered dietitian is not a weekend nutrition course, right? It's really rigorous in what you go through. And you added to this your functional nutrition, your integrative functional nutrition. Talk to me about how this works into finding root cause nutrition, root cause issues for your clients.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, really, it comes down to looking at what are we solving for our client. In our case, we know bone health is complicated, it's multifactorial, and functional nutrition is really the ideal way of understanding what is going on for that person, what is potentially the root cause of the dis-ease that they're feeling, and then looking at it through a very personalized precision medicine lens, looking at the microbiome, their genetic history, internal and external environment, like what they're eating, drinking, medication they're taking, how they're sleeping, stress, including, adverse childhood events, all of that, and toxins. We look at all of it to really get to what's the issue and what do we need to solve for, and then what are we going to have suggest for our client to keep them healthy, essentially free from fractures, what we would like to do.
I love it. I love it. So very personalized, very holistic picture to identify what can you change and how do you change it.
Exactly.
Yeah, love it. All right. Well, let's talk about it because really there are some specifics. There are some keys. So let's talk about what are some of the most important nutrients for bone health. Let's start there.
Okay, great. So just keeping it simple, we're going to look at protein, calcium, vitamin D, and vitamin K2. And we'll start there, and then there's some other things we can talk about after that. But those are probably my four main ones.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, well, let's talk about protein. What is the role of protein in our nutrition for bone health?
Yeah, so we know that really protein is essential for bone remodeling, right? So you have calcium on board, but you got to have the protein in this sufficient quantity to build that bone matrix, really the scaffolding. And when we look at protein for folks that I see a lot of at age 50 and above, I'd like to see about 1.2 to 1.5 grams per kilogram of their daily body weight.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. That 1.2 is my low end recommendation also, and I go up to
perfect.
1.6, 1.2 to 1.6. So we're aligned with that on what the needs is. Bone, I believe bone is 50% protein by volume.
That's right.
Extraordinary, right? That's a big
It's extraordinary.
So if we're not getting those building blocks, it's hard to build new bone, which is happening all the time.
Exactly. And especially as you know, what you do in your work is around building muscle and strength training, right? So I want to see clients that are doing that already. And then I want to support them with making sure they get enough protein, right?
Great. Okay. And then, so you have the protein to build the matrix of the bone. When here comes calcium. This is a mineral.
Exactly. Well, let's talk about protein in particular now. Okay. So when we're talking about protein, If you're a smaller person like me, I want to say I want to get about 25 grams of protein per meal. If you're a larger person, we want to see 35 grams. But again, it tends to be what's specific for them. For me, I need to get about 68 to 85 grams of protein in a day, right? So the protein food sources, particularly for folks who are vegan, plant-based, my go-to is soy food. I will say soy foods are among the most complete and highest quality plant proteins that we have available. And when I say soy foods, I mean whole soybean, tofu, tempeh, which is a fermented soy, edamame, which is an immature green soybean. And we'll talk about how much to get essentially. But really, for optimal bone health, whole soybean, not the soy protein isolates, is really wonderful. And soy milk in particular is a great source of protein in and of itself. Always tell people check the labels, but my soy milk has just naturally 8 grams per cup that I like.
Wow, that's incredible. Actually, I love using soy products too, and that's wonderful that that is an incredible resource. Great. That was great info on the soy. Are there other protein sources that you recommend?
Absolutely. So second to soy is pea protein. And when you think about pea protein, like what is that? Well, pea protein and soy both are really rich in leucine. And that's one of the most important amino acids for stimulating muscle and muscle protein synthesis. Okay. So first would be soy. Second would be pea protein. You might see these in the Beyond and Impossible Burger products come out. And they're fantastic in terms of, we don't make a steady diet of processed food, but to include some of this into our diet is quite lovely, I think.
So with these two, does that create the complete amino acid profile that we talk about that is sometimes difficult in a plant-based diet?
Yeah, that's a great question. So essentially soybean in itself is the complete protein and pea as well. So if someone wants to combine soy and pea, because honestly, it's nice to have combined food in the diet anyway, right? We want to have a full rich of whole grains, of different protein sources, of different vegetables and fruits, all of that. It's great to combine, to have them all together to get all the important micronutrients. But yeah, so I would say first soy and then pea are fantastic, but there's other really great rich protein sources as well for vegans.
Well, let us know what they are, please.
Yeah. So next one would be seitan. And a lot of folks love seitan. I used to love seitan until I got diagnosed with celiac disease, and now I can't have it. The thing about seitan also has a lot of protein in it. We'll talk about how much in a second, but it's low in lysine. So again, I would have some in the diet, but I wouldn't make a steady diet of it. You want to go for soy, you want to go for pea. But let's talk about some other really important ones to include for variety and for nutrition. So legumes, chickpeas, hummus and falafel, lentils, beans, fantastic sources of protein. Whole grains, oats, quinoa is a grass, great source of protein. Also, we want nuts and seeds, and including products like them, like nut butters, tahini, things like that. They have trace minerals, they have antioxidants, other things we want in our diet in addition to protein. So fantastic source. And then there's some interesting research on novel plant proteins. Mycoproteins are coming up, made from mushroom. You might see fava bean protein, hemp, of course, and lupini bean.
Fabulous. The other thing I'm thinking as you're mentioning all these legumes and grains and beans and nuts is the fiber component too. So they don't just have this one benefit when we're looking at protein, but they're also packaged with some carbohydrates. So they're really a wonderful energy source and gut health food for multiple reasons, right?
Exactly. So well said. We need that for our microbiome, for moving our bowels. And then we did mention the benefit of like tempeh, which is fermented soy. It's going to give us some prebiotic as well. So super healthy for us.
Yeah, a lot of downstream effects and benefits of eating these kinds of foods. Whether we're plant-based or not, they're still really wonderful and beneficial foods to eat.
Exactly. What I loved about preparing this talk is that this is foods that we all should be eating anyway, right? This is not just for plant-based people, and we all should be eating these kinds of foods. And I would say my diet is pretty much 80 to 90% of these kinds of foods.
Yeah, I agree. I like to make sure I'm getting a lot of whole grains and a variety of different beans and plant-based proteins also. I don't eat plant-based, but I do see the incredible nutritional benefit in these foods. Plant forward is what I say I do because there's so much good stuff for us. And fiber, we are under fibered, aren't we? We need all of this.
Incredible.
Yeah.
So if we think about how much do we really need, okay, so what did I say? I said about 25 to 35 grams a meal. Okay. So tempeh, 2/3 a cup, has 18 to 20 grams of protein. Extra firm tofu, about 2/3 a cup, is going to have 12 to 17 grams of protein. Edamame, 18 grams of protein. So that's a lot, plus you could have some soy milk with it. That's going to give you 8 grams. A Beyond Burger is going to have you 20 grams of protein. Seitan, about 25 grams. If you eat a cup of lentils, you're getting 18 grams, right? And then you can add nuts to it, another 8 grams, or hemp seeds, going to give you 9 grams. See what I mean? So it's not that difficult to get the protein that you need just from that alone.
I love that. And thinking of these foods not just for lunch and dinner, but also for breakfast. I mean, I think it's a great way to utilize that. Great. And you're layering these beneficial things, not just one food or component, but to get that 25 grams or so per meal. That's great.
Yes. And to your point about layering, when you're eating these kinds of foods, we haven't talked about all the fruits and vegetables you're going to have as well and the healthy fats. But at the end of the day, you are getting a full concert of great nutritional benefits, and you don't need supplements if you get these foods in the right amounts in your diet.
I love it. Okay, great tips. Any other points on nutrition, or shall we talk about calcium?
The only thing I would say is, and you mentioned this too, I would say don't worry about food combining. You can just do think about the foods that we talked about, and like you said, layer them in, and you will get, you eat a variety of grains, proteins, vegetables every day. You don't need to do the food combining. You're set.
Excellent. Okay. So talk to us next about the role of calcium. Sorry, I jumped the gun on that a little earlier.
No, it's fantastic because calcium and protein are bedmates, as you know. They go together so importantly. So calcium is so important for building and remodeling our strong bones and teeth, but also used for muscle contraction and nerve function, blood clotting, heart and blood vessel function, so many things, cell signaling. So important that we get enough calcium. And what I want folks to do is try to aim for about 1,200 milligrams of calcium a day. Now that sounds like a lot. And I say aim, because if we aim for it, then we have a better chance of thinking through, what can I add to that layering? I love that concept, to add some more calcium in, right?
Yeah, 1,200 milligrams a day aiming is the recommendation. And I feel like, it's very much a cycle. Some days better than others for me. And calcium is like one of the minerals that adheres to that infrastructure that the protein creates to make it hard and strong, right? So we need this. But it can be a little more challenging if someone doesn't eat dairy to get the calcium they need. Is it that hard? What tips do you have for us?
Okay, so my biggest tip is going to be, if you don't already do it, you need to become a good food label reader. We need to read our food labels. And there's no shame at all in eating products that have additional, or fortification as we call it, nutrients added to it, right? That's still eating the food. That is not eating what I call taking a supplement. You should look for calcium set tofu or milk, soy milk, or other oat or almond that are fortified with calcium. Great source of calcium. Nuts and seeds are naturally high in calcium, but the highest would be in chia seeds, sesame, we said tahini, almonds, also a great source. Then we talk about legumes. We already talked about this for protein, but guess what? We're getting calcium from them too. From your white beans and your edamame, you're getting the most of calcium. Then folks might want to just have a little tiptoe into the dairy-free area of cheeses and yogurts that exist. And a lot of them are fortified with calcium. So you can look at that. And when I think about vegetables, yes, vegetables have calcium. The biggest piece we want to look at is that we want to choose the vegetables that are lowest in oxalates. Well, oxalates bind to calcium, which means they're going to reduce the absorption that we can have for them when we eat them. So you want to pick something like collard greens, turnip greens, kale, bok choy, and broccoli are your best choices to get the most calcium absorbed. If you pick spinach, Swiss chard, beet greens, things like that, they have high in oxalate, so your chances of getting the calcium absorption is less.
And yeah, and I want to clarify that and correct me if I'm wrong. So there isn't anything wrong with eating those foods. You just can't count on getting as much of the calcium in those foods, but it isn't going to block all the calcium you're eating in other foods either. It's just you don't absorb as much in that. But they have other beneficial nutrients. So if you like spinach or kale or those other things, it's okay to eat them, but you have to really consider other sources in addition to optimize your calcium.
Yeah, you said it exactly right. And for those of folks who who are having dairy and other sources in their diet, they're less worried about counting every milligram of calcium that they're getting, right? But if you are plant-based and vegan, and this is an important thing, you want to make sure that you make the choices that are going to optimize your ability. You maximize the calcium in your diet, and that's why I brought it out, the distinction here.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And really getting the foods because you don't want to have that much volume of food if you don't have to have it, right? To optimize foods that are going to have
so much.
yeah, that's
then
great.
I had mentioned to you, mineral water is a great source. I drink it every day. I drink it all the time. In fact, I have I make my own water in my house that basically, clarifies all the water, and it's reverse osmosis and adds calcium into it. So that's a great source.
That's very unique. I love that. Yeah, I recommend mineral water too. And for people who don't have that unique setup that you have, there's different brands available, but you got to read the labels because they don't all have the same amount. But read the label to see, because some are going to have more than others. Naturally occurring minerals dissolved in the water. I think that's a great tip. And I really appreciate that you said we do not have to shy away from foods that are fortified with calcium, that this can still be considered a food-first approach to getting our calcium that we need every single day. And I think this makes it very approachable. We're not looking for perfection, right? We're looking to give our body and our bones what it needs. And that's a great way to utilize that.
Exactly. And let's think about, okay, so how am I going to get the calcium that Denise suggested? Okay, you could do 1 to 2 cups of fortified soy milk. Okay, you're going to get 300 to 600 milligrams right there. You could do a half to 1 cup of calcium set tofu. That's going to give you up to 500 milligrams of calcium just from that. Then 2 tablespoons of chia seeds are going to give you 180 milligram, and then a cup of collard greens, 260 milligram. So if you ate just that in a day, you'd get your calcium.
Fantastic. People are going to slow this down and replay that last section because that's really key. Well, I'm just saying this is doable. You just need to have the right ingredients and you can make it work. I love that so much. Anything else you would like us to know about calcium? Any other tips or tricks for us?
Well, that's pretty much. And I think, there'll be an opportunity I'm going to share at the end just a little bit more about a diet that you might be able to follow during the day, make sure you can actually integrate all of this into yummy meals.
Oh, I love it. Real practical application. Okay. Next up, vitamin D. So I was actually doing a little research on optimal diets, and in some of the research that I read, it talked about people who are plant-based eaters and fracture occurrence. And in those who optimize calcium and vitamin D, they were more protected than those who did not. They had higher fracture rates. So let's bring vitamin D into the conversation.
Yeah, and that's such a great introduction to that. So vitamin D helps us absorb calcium from the gut. That's the big deal. Like, why do we need vitamin D? It's important to get that calcium into our bodies via vitamin D. Mm-hmm. And it plays a major role in promoting healthy immune system by monitoring inflammation and helping to maintain our microbiome. So that's the other really important part of vitamin D. Mm-hmm. So vitamin D, we know it's produced in our own bodies, in our skin and through our liver through the sun's UV radiation. And so, wow, that sounds great. I should get a lot of radiation, right? No, that's the challenge, because we want to watch our radiation exposure. Mm-hmm. So I would say it's almost impossible. I wouldn't rely on just getting a suntan, for example, of getting enough vitamin D. And so what do? Well, very few plant-based foods actually naturally contain vitamin D. So we have to get it through the fortified foods. We talked about fortified foods and supplementation on the side additionally, if our blood tests show that we need extra vitamin D.
Yeah.
So that's really, really important. We don't just supplement without knowing. And then I want to talk a little bit about vitamin D because we have D3 from animal, but for vegans, we care about D2, which is from plant sources. It comes from yeast and comes from mushrooms. Oh, well, then I should just eat a lot of mushrooms, right? And then I'll get enough vitamin D2. Not necessarily. So the way we get it through our mushrooms is the mushroom has to be exposed to UV light. So how it's grown and how it's exposed is really important. And the content varies so much that we can't really rely on it per se. So then what are we to do? Well, we can absolutely do supplementation through foods that have, vitamin D in them. And again, we have to read the labels. So I would say aim for 1,000 IU per day. Again, I really feel strongly because vitamin D is fat soluble that we don't want to do it with too much vitamin D. And especially if we're going to be having a supplement, we need to make sure that there's a clinical reason why we need that vitamin D. Yes, some of us likely are going to need to have some vitamin D, but again, you want to work with a practitioner to help you know how much.
Yeah.
But where do we get it? Again, plant-based milks are going to have supplementation. Soy, oat, almond, rice milk sometimes has it. Pea milk, we talked about pea protein. You can find pea milk and you have to read the label to see if that has vitamin D in it. Dairy-free yogurts and cheeses sometimes have it added. Some breakfast cereals have it added. And then I also want to say that I know that there's margarines and vegan spreads that contain vitamin D. Look at that label, make sure nothing is hydrogenized. We do not want hydrogenated oil, trans fats, anything like that that goes against what we're trying to do for healthy body and anti-inflammation.
Yeah, great. So there are some foods, but it's a little different. We have to look at labels to make sure we optimize. Sun exposure gives us some, but it may not be enough. The only way to know is to be regularly tested. So typically your annual physical and you see your specialist, they're going to check your vitamin D level. We don't want it too low because that impairs the absorption of calcium. And we don't want it too high because that can affect bone turnover as well in how it affects the parathyroid. So it gives that sweet spot. And the only way to know is to be tested. So if you're considering supplementation for that, to see if you need it, you need to know what your level is. That's, I think, one of the most important messages that you're sharing here. And then we can read labels and see what's available in the foods that we regularly eat to see if we need to supplement once we know our level. Yeah. And if you're not sure, we need to work with a professional, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, super. Okay, and vitamin D is this transport system. It's a transport system so that we get the calcium we're ingesting, but there's another transport indicator, another transport nutrient, and that's vitamin K2.
Exactly. So let's talk about vitamin K2. And I think you'll probably put in the show notes the talk that we did prior about a year ago where we went into deep dive around vitamin K2. But for folks
we'll
here,
link that video.
We'll do a quick summary. So vitamin K1, we know it comes from leafy greens, and that's important for blood clotting. Okay. But vitamin K2 is important for skeletal health, and it works with the vitamins D and vitamin A, by the way, for optimal bone formation. It activates proteins that guide calcium out of our soft tissues, like our coronary arteries, and into bones and teeth. So it's so critical to have it in our body. But guess what? Vitamin K2 is not stored in the body, so we have to get it in the diet. And so with that, I'd like to tell folks aim for about 120 to 240 micrograms a day. How do we get that? Well, in terms of food sources, you could go for fermented vegetables like made from lactic acid, like sauerkraut. If you eat sauerkraut, you're getting vitamin K2, which is fantastic. But really, and we talked about this in the other video, the richest source is natto. It's a superfood that is incredible, eaten in Japan. I know you've had it before, Dr. Lisa. And it alters the menaquinine molecule to an MK7. That is, there's an MK4 and MK7. MK7 has the longest half-life, so it stays in the body longer to do what it needs to do. So if you can get your hands on natto, that's amazing. 40 grams of serving of natto daily provides about 400 micrograms of K2.
And so that's like a tablespoon or two, right? It's not even that much. You can sprinkle it in your salad or your rice. I mean, it's really easy to incorporate into your meal.
Exactly. So if you're vegan and you know you have bone density issues, I think it's pretty good idea to try to see if you can get natto.
Yeah. And what a great food first approach.
That's the other thing, right? It's not for soy allergies.
Yeah. Super. Yeah. So it's another really key nutrient, but I love that you're able to share. So fermentation process is what helps to convert that into vitamin K2. So sauerkraut, you said, or other fermented foods, and natto. Anything else? Any other like plant-based sources, or is that really it?
That's really it, unfortunately. And then, we could talk about supplementation again, but I would just say we'll briefly chat about supplementation. What vegans need to know is, again, we're going to make sure you consult with a healthcare provider before you start taking supplements. But if you are going to take them, make sure you are avoiding gelatin. So some of the tablets will be, or pills, or things come like vitamin D comes in gelatin. You don't want that. You want to check the ingredients of tablets to make sure the coating is not of an animal source. Some supplements you'll find are vegan certified on the label, or the capsules made from plant cellulose, which is great. And then the only thing I would say also is back to vitamin D3. There's now a vegan D3 supplement that you can find that's made from lichen, which is fungus. And it's superior to vitamin D2 as it's more effective at raising and maintaining vitamin D levels. So when you're getting to go to the supplement conversation with your provider, you look for that kind of supplement.
Great. Super helpful. Thank you. Now, are there any other key nutrition considerations for somebody who's strictly following a plant-based diet? Any other key considerations for them when it really comes to bone health nutrition?
Yes. So make sure you are getting enough trace minerals in your diet. And if you're following what we talked about today, you will be. I mean, think seeds, nuts, legumes, whole grains, sea vegetables, even cacao. You like cacao powder? I love chocolate. That's going to give you some incredible of the trace minerals. Seaweed as well, iodines. And we talked about prunes as well in our last talk. Very, very important for those trace minerals. Antioxidants. Okay. Fruits, vegetables. We want to eat the rainbow. Vitamin A, beta carotene, vitamin E, vitamin C, right? All of these things. Green leafies, onions, garlic, sweet potatoes, apples, grapes, citrus, herbs and spices, nuts and seeds. You're getting your antioxidants if you do that, right? Mediterranean.
So this is following a healthy plant-based diet, right? This isn't a junk food plant-based diet. A healthy plant-forward diet is really going to help you get all those micronutrients that you're talking about.
You got it. Right. And naturally, you don't have to think that hard if you think about it. You're probably eating a lot of this stuff anyway, right?
Right.
And then the last bit is around healthy fats. So can't say enough about that, right? So we want to have extra virgin olive oil, olives, avocados, think monounsaturated fats, omega-9s, so important. We get them in our nuts, in our nut butters and seeds and tahini and all of that. But we also want to have essential fatty acids, omega-3s in the diet. And I'll say that, as a vegan, you're not consuming fish, but you can get it through algae, and you can get it through the alpha-linolenic acid is the plant-based source. You hope it converts to EPA and DHA in the body, which is the most important one for heart health and brain health. But good to have flaxseed, hemp seed oil, ground flax seeds and hemp seeds. Add all of those into your cereals and your soups and breads and things you're making. Chia seeds too is wonderful. Add walnuts in, rich in omega-3s, those kinds of things. And then again, there is a supplement that you can find that is algae-based, DHA and EPA.
Yeah, my understanding is really important to have this balance, that it really being heavy in just the omega-9s is not as optimal as really balancing with the omega-3s as well, especially when we're talking about inflammation. Is that correct?
Yeah, so what it is, it's the balancing between omega-6 and omega-3s.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, so omega-9s you could eat. You can't overdose in omega-9s. I mean, really, they're super great. What the problem comes in is when you eat safflower, sunflower, any kind of processed food, tends to have a lot of the omega-6s in them. And we overdo those and don't have enough omega-3s. So that's where the balance comes in. You want to boost omega-3s and less omega-6s.
So you can get those from fish, but if you're eating a plant-based diet, then all those other recommendations like the flax and chia and whatnot, that's a really great way to incorporate that. Walnut, super. That's super helpful. I do think, people tend to shy away from fat a lot, but healthy fats will help your joints feel better. They help your brain. They help your heart. They help address inflammation. Healthy fats are carriers for vitamins too. You talked about vitamin D being fat soluble. Vitamin K is also fat soluble, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And you know what else? Satiety. I'm hungry. Get some fat in your diet.
Yeah.
You will feel more satisfied, and make sure you get enough calories too, because sometimes folks on plant-based diets tend to be thinner, right? You want to have more weight on your body if you can through the healthy fats.
Yeah, I love that. I think people are going to replay this a lot because you didn't just come here saying these are recommendations, but you've also given us some very specific foods to choose from, things to incorporate, and how to use it. And you teased a little earlier on about perhaps sharing a little bit of a meal plan or a strategy. Whatever you'd like to share now, I sure would appreciate it. I think that's really helpful, and I appreciate your generosity in providing this for folks.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I'm very excited to do it. Okay, let's talk about a meal plan. So here's some suggestions. And this comes actually from a lot of what I love to eat. So this is my personal meal plan. Okay, so for breakfast, so about a half a cup of oatmeal with fortified soy milk, cup of that. And by the way, you could do that as overnight oats too if you wanted to do that. People love that. Add some chia seeds in there, walnuts, pumpkin seeds, and have some fruit. That's one breakfast. Or here's another one, tofu scramble. Spinach, mushrooms, peppers, red onion, delicious. You can do a slice of whole grain toast with some tahini on there or almond butter. That's some very, very satiating, nice fat there. And then a cup of fortified soy milk to drink. And of course, coffee, tea, whatever you want as well. But just some ideas for breakfast.
Love it.
Okay, let's go to lunch. And this can be dinners too. So chickpea quinoa bowl. So you could do a third cup of chickpeas with a half a cup of quinoa, add some kale in there, bok choy or cucumber, tomato, anything you like in your vegetables. And then I make a tahini lemon dressing. So easy, delicious to add that on there. Or a lentil tofu soup is delicious. Half a cup of lentils with some calcium set tofu. You put kale in there, carrots, celery, tomatoes, whole bean, and then have some bread with it to go along. That's a nice idea.
Sounds very satisfying. Like I'm salivating. It sounds delicious, like flavorful and incredibly satisfying at the same time.
Yeah, and these lunches you can make ahead of time. Make a huge amount of it. Freeze it. Bring it out when you're running. Take it to work on the go. These go really well. These are good transportable foods, right?
Very helpful. Very helpful.
Okay, so snacks. I love snacks. Maybe you want some snacks. So you could look for fortified soy yogurt. It's delicious. Add some chia seeds to there, flax seeds, things like that. I love hummus and vegetables. You can find seed crackers. Those are beautifully delicious with fiber. Add some nut butter. These are great vegan options for snacks.
Fantastic. I love it. Those great ideas. Thank you. Sounds like something you've personally done too. So you really know these foods.
Oh, I eat this very regularly and I love it. Okay, so dinner. I like to make black bean tacos. So 3/4 cup of black bean, or you can use pinto bean, whatever you like, with corn tortilla, beautiful cabbage and salsa. I put avocado on there, of course, always. And then you could add some calcium fortified vegan cheese on there. Delicious to give it some more calcium. Or another one I love to make is I love to cook with tempeh. So I'll do a tempeh stir fry with bok choy, broccoli, mushrooms, onions, put some garlic in there, and you can have that over quinoa. I haven't mentioned brown rice. Brown rice doesn't have as much protein, but if you get tired of quinoa, have it over brown rice.
How's farro? Is farro a good source?
farro is a great source of protein as well. Again, it's a nice whole grain, not for folks with celiac, but definitely, definitely fantastic grain. There's so many. You think about all the different things you could have this over. I was just thinking of kasha, which is buckwheat, also another delicious grain you could have.
Yeah. Gosh, great suggestions. I love it. I love your experience. I love you making it like very approachable and realistic. People can do this. We can make this food. It isn't that hard. We talked a little bit before we came on, and you said you might be willing to do a week meal plan for the members of my private group, Brick House Bones membership platform. Would you be able to do that for us?
I would love to do that. I really want to support all those who have taken the step to work with you, Dr. Lisa, to take, control of doing their fitness and their weight, all their working on their balance training and resistance training, working with you. And as a reward for all that hard work, I'd love to support them with giving them a diet. And it would be great. You get a week, a meal plan. And even if you're not plant-based, we all could have more plants in our diet. And I think everybody would really benefit from that.
Well, I know that I do have a lot of people inside the membership who are plant-based eaters, and they will greatly appreciate it. And this is a very special gift for my members. So thank you so much for sharing that. You have a great deal of wisdom. I look forward. I hope we can have future conversations about other topics and take some deep dives, especially into like how you work as an integrative practitioner and help people get the root cause. Please tell people how they can find you, find more information, and how they can work with you.
Oh, yeah, I'd love to. So I have two websites. My original website is Botanical Nutrition. I've had it since 2007 when I started my practice. And so you can find me through botanicalnutrition.com, or you can find me through bonefreedom.com. And you'll see that I work with folks with a variety of different areas of need, not just plant-based diets, omnivores as well, and anything related to peri and menopause type of work, and lots of different disease states, celiac, GI issues, cancer, the whole bit, you'll see.
I love it. We will make sure we include those links below, and people should know that you order lab tests, right? You take some deep dives into some of this. Is that true?
Labs are so important. Thank you for asking about that. Absolutely. So I would work with someone who has lab tests they've gotten from their doctor, or give them suggestions on what they want to ask for. And if they need support, I can also order labs for them. I'm also able to recommend personalized supplementation as is required, with really high quality professional grade supplements that I trust as part of practice working with me. So yeah.
I think that was important for people to know. You really do take a very holistic approach to working with each individual, and it's very individualized guidance. Thank you, Denise, for being here and for sharing your wisdom and experience with us today.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
All right. We'll see you again, I hope.
Okay.
If you're new here, I'm Dr. Lisa. I'm a physical therapist and a specialist in osteoporosis and bone health exercise. I do it for myself, and I share it with you.